Welcome to the Aboriginal channel. This episode will be another part to Aboriginal forts and castles. So right here we're looking at a picture of some Natchez Indians. So what I did is I typed in the Devil's Punch Bowl, Natchez, Mississippi, and then all of these images came up. So on this image, I want to point out one thing right here. This lady right back here to the far back left. She has a dress on. Inside of this dress, you see what is a diamond shape. Diamond shape right there. Another woman back here has it on as well, right here. Dress with a diamond shape. Then when you go look up what the diamond means to the Native Americans, it says right here that the exact meaning can differ between cultures and religions. For example, Native Americans from Canada, Mexico, and North America see the diamond as the butterfly, and it signifies immortality. Then up here it says that, again, we cannot be too sure of some of the meanings, but many Navajo grandmothers will tell you that the diamond is a symbol of the Dinata, or Navajo homeland, and its four sacred corners that are marked by the four sacred mountains. So we just learned that the diamond symbol signifies immortality to American Indians from Canada, Mexico, and North America. And that is exactly why we see this diamond patterns on this dress right here. So for this episode, we're going to be looking at some of those star-shaped forts around the Gulf of Mexico. We already looked at some in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. There was a star-shaped one right down here. Now we're going to go down further into Mexico, like places like Veracruz and a couple other places, and see if the structures don't look the same. Right here we have Fort Savannah in Cuba. And as you can see, it's on the water and it looks very, very old. It looks like a castle. So that was in Cuba. And if you go right here to Cancun, you have this temple right here. But we're focusing on those star-shaped forts. Here's a map of the temples. So they have temples all over Mexico, those big structures like that. Veracruz, Tampico, Monterrey, and on up. So we'll venture right down here to Campeche, right here where the marker is at. There's located Fort San Miguel right here. Now it's hard to see the shape, but as you can see right here, it's old, and the way it's shaped is the exact way another fort is shaped up in Kentucky or West Virginia. I'll show that in a later video, but I just wanted to point this out that we will be seeing this same shaped structure up in North America in the Midwest there, somewhere in the northern Mississippi Valley. Now we'll move over to Veracruz right here, where the Olmec area of Mexico. So right there you see this structure off of the Bay of Veracruz. It has those points, those diamond shapes on the end, and this little offset one right here. Then when we go further up here is a place called Monterrey. This structure right here is at Monterrey, Mexico, right here. See the shape? And when you go look at the information on those structures, they like to say that the Spanish Empire built them, but that's untrue. That's the same thing they said about structures in Florida and other places. But like right here in this by McAllen or Brownsville, actually, there's a 6-pointed diamond shaped structure there that the so-called European Union Army built. So that's neither true. And then here's some old forts at the Caribbean islands called Forts of Nassau. They have some particular shapes to them. As you see, this one right here has that diamond type shape. It looks like almost like a bird artifact shaped the same way from mounds called bird gorgets. So we looked at a fort in Campeche, Veracruz, and Monterrey. So, however, I also showed you a map of where there were some temples at. I'll show you one that's located right above the forts here at Campeche in Yucatan. This is the Pyramid of Cococan, the feathered serpent. And basically I'm showing you this because what I'm saying is that the people that built this structure, the descendants of those people, built the forts that I've been showing and the castles. So you have to relate one to another when you're looking at this. So that structure is in Yucatan, and we seen another structure right here in Campeche. Now, on a side note, before I show you the other temples and how they're close to the other forts in Veracruz and also in Monterrey, I want to point out right here it says Quintana Roo right here on the side of Yucatan. There's a town in Mexico called Quintana. And in the town of Quintana, there's a fort that looks just like the other forts that we have been looking at. It says San Felipe Fort, Quintana Roo, Mexico. As you look right here, you can see this is the diamond shape, the end of the building with a cannon at the end. And then right here, you see those grooves in the other diamond shape down here at this end. Then on the side note, you have this old structure right here. It's called Fort El Morro in Puerto Rico. And as you can see, it has those same kind of diamond shapes on the end. As you look right here, it's a diamond shape right here on the other side of the building. And then right here as well on this side. Okay, moving down over here in Tabasco again, we have a temple right here. And as you look at it, some of the material looks like the same kind of material that those forts are made out of. Those forts have earthen mounds around them and intertwined within them, just like these mounds right here, as you see mounds right here and across here. See how this mound and then you have the stone structure within it are intertwined in it. So once again, the people who made these structures, their descendants and their people that lived after them built those forts and castles type structures, fortifications on the coastlines and other various areas throughout basically the Western Hemisphere. Now let's move over to Acapulco right here, right down here. So right there we have Fort San Diego. So when I go to images, this is what pops up. This five-pointed star-shaped fort right here. So on a side note, let's look at Veracruz real quick for a second. So in Veracruz, they have this structure right here. It's a temple. In a previous video, I had made reference to how Indians, the way they built their structures, they had a lot of portholes on it. And as we can see right here, this is probably anywhere from 1500 to from 1000 to 1500 years old right here. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that the people got better at building their structures. So when I showed you the earlier in this video that nice elaborate star fort on the port of Veracruz right here, you could kind of see how over time the architectural craftsmanship got better. So on Wikipedia it says that in pre-Columbian time, Veracruz was inhabited primarily by four indigenous cultures, the oldest being the Olmecs, as you see the statue head right here. So right before it talks about Jasper Yanga, it says that the Spanish imported from 500,000 to a million West African slaves into Mexico in between 1535 and 1767. But that is a lie. Goes on to say that in 1609, a leader named Jasper Yanga led an insurrection against the Spanish but was defeated in battle. Unrest continued, eventually forcing the government to sign an amnesty pact giving the Africans the right to form their own community, exacting as a condition that the bandits be suppressed. It says this was the first time slavery was abolished in the Americas. But if you know the truth, they didn't even have a government like that in that area at the time because they were continuously fighting the indigenous peoples in those areas. So all this right here is pretty much fabricated, but you have to get the bits and pieces of truth within it. And that's to say it's Veracruz right here where they saying all these so-called Africans came right there. And we know this is the land of the Olmecs, the land of this guy Jasper Yanga right here. And these were not Africans because for one, this Olmec head right here is way before the 1500s. So how come Jasper Yanga look like the dude right here in the Olmec Stonehead? And it ain't no coincidences. So right here, it's saying that pyramid I showed you a little earlier says that the Castillo de Teya Castle is really a pyramid whose original name was Zapatatelan. It is located on the border between Hezatec and Totonac lands. It was abandoned in the 19th century. That's the 1800s. An interesting aspect about this is that in 1811, during the Mexican War of Independence, skirmishes erupted in various parts. A major conspiracy against the colonial government was discovered in the port in 1812, with rebels taking Atahualco and Ajacan during the same year. This forced royalist troops to withdraw to Exapa. Eventually, the city along the port were cut off from Mexico City. Most of the state remained in rebel hands during the rest of the year, although the commercial class of the port did not support the effort. In 1821, Juan de Obojo, the last Viceroy of New Spain, came to the port to leave to Spain. However, until 1823, Spanish troops continued to occupy San Juan de Fort. In 1826, the city would receive the first of its 4 titles of heroic city for confronting these remaining Spanish troops. So it's saying pretty much after that, in 1838, the French came over and wanted to go at it with the Mexicans in the French and Mexican War, indigenous folks. But it says during the Mexican-American War, the port was blockaded again, this time by the Americans. Initial American attempts in 1847 to land in Alvarado were checked, but the Americans then made a plan to land a few miles south of Veracruz, which surrendered after a 20-day siege. Now, in my mind, during this time, because so much of the other stuff that I know about what was going on in the United States at this time, these people that were being sieged for 20 days at this port in Veracruz, that they call them Mexicans, were the descendants of Jasper Yango right here and other people like him, because this area was originally their land that they had been for thousands of years. So those were their forts on those ports that they were defending against the Spanish, the French, and then the Americans. So I ended on a fort right here in Barbados called St. Anne's Fort. Barbados has another fort called Gun Hill Fort with this white lion in front of it with its paw on a red ball, and it also has a red eye. In previous videos, we learned that when Europeans use this lion in conjunction with the color red, it means their victory over American Indians. But Barbados also has a coat of arms, and at the top of it, right here to the right, you see a hand holding some sugar cans. That hand is an Aboriginal hand. It says on a helmet to the dexter, the arm of a Barbadian. In its fist, 2 stalks of sugar cane. At one time, Barbados also had a coin they called the Barbados penny. And right here you can see that it has an Aboriginal on it with a feather crown on his head, which would correlate back to this castle-looking fortress right here at St. Anne's in Barbados. So the brothers and sisters listening in the Caribbean, I want you to know that you ain't no West Indian, you know. Through the history books, which has all been a lie. So therefore, if it's a lie, then what's the truth? If it's a lie, then what's the truth?